This is KGW News at 11.
There's one person out there that knows exactly why this horrible thing happened to Brian. And that's the person that pulled the trigger.
A family's search for answers 5 years after their son was shot and killed inside his North Portland home. On June 12, 2018, Brian Spalding was murdered, and his killer is still out there. Good evening, and thanks for joining us. I'm Brittany Folkers. Tonight, we hear from Brian's parents and their call for information to solve this case. Reporter Evan Watson talked to them about the balance between grief and hope.
I put on my Brian shirt every now and then, and she's got her bear. Parts of it are a quilt that Carolyn and her mom made for Brian.
Brian Spalding didn't show up to work on June 12th of 2017. So his parents, George and Carolyn, went to check on him at his home near Irving Park.
Went into the house and back to his room. The door was ajar, and went in and found him shot to death. Worst day of my life.
Detectives told Spalding's family there wasn't much evidence to work with. George Spalding suspects a burglary or robbery gone wrong.
Another victim of the senseless gun violence that's going on.
But nobody knows for sure because no one has been arrested. Spalding's murder is still an active case, but Portland police detectives tell the family they're often busy on other investigations. So, each summer, the Spaldings have committed to asking for help.
Keeping it out there is important because we know that other people that have done that it's, again, led to a little bit of information. Sometimes it's rather dramatic and fast, but other times it's just gradual. Somebody sees it, and they go, I remember that.
Family and friends have raised a $20,000 reward for information leading to an arrest, on top of $2,500 from Crime Stoppers. Spalding would have turned 41 this year. His family finds ways to remember him, helping to motivate their push for answers.
And my daughter convinced us to get a tattoo. And so it says, "Prove it." And then his signature, Brian Spalding. And "prove it" was one of his catchphrases. There should be some accountability, and for us, the element of closure is likely verifying that it was a mistake.
Evan Watson, reporting for KGW News.
A bipartisan group of U.S. senators are taking action to curb mass shootings in America. The deal could be the most significant federal action on gun violence in nearly 3 decades. It comes, of course, as the nation continues to mourn the lives lost in mass shootings from Uvalde, Texas to Buffalo, New York. A centerpiece of the Senate deal is to provide resources for states to implement red flag laws, which keep firearms away from people deemed a risk to themselves or others. It would also establish a more rigorous background check process for people between 18 and 21 years old. And among other things, the agreement would increase mental health and school safety resources. The proposal has not been written in text yet, but reportedly has at least 20 senators that support the measure. And now to the shocking caught-on-camera arrests of more than 30 suspected white supremacists in Idaho yesterday. Officials say the group was heading towards a pride parade in Coeur d'Alene. Maggie Vespa reports.
These guys stopped a U-Haul full of dudes.
A swarm of extremists who Idaho police say came to riot. 31 suspected white nationalists zip-tied and arrested blocks from a pride festival.
These people want violence for us. And we don't want violence for anybody.
There was at least one smoke grenade. There was multiple shields.
Coeur d'Alene police Saturday discovered the crowd crammed in a U-Haul after a 911 caller described seeing a little army at a local hotel with masks on their faces and slogans like "Reclaim America" on their shirts. Police charging all 31 with conspiracy to riot, noting they planned to swarm several parts of Coeur d'Alene and carried paperwork similar to an operations plan that a police or military group would put together. They traveled in from states all across the country, allegedly united by white nationalism.
They appeared to be affiliated with the group Patriot Front.
Who is Patriot Front?
Patriot Front is a white supremacist group. It is anti-Semitic, racist, and homophobic to the core.
Experts say the group formed following 2017's deadly Unite the Right rally in Charlottesville, Virginia. Tonight, police in Idaho working with the FBI.
Why Coeur d'Alene, Idaho?
White supremacist movement has deep roots in Idaho. And sometimes they'll choose small towns. Less security, easy to show up, less resistance.
Amid Pride Month, events across the country now on edge, knowing one small town may have dodged a violent confrontation. Maggie Vespa, NBC News.
A local romance novelist convicted of murder is set to be sentenced tomorrow. A jury found Nancy Crampton Brophy guilty of killing her husband Daniel Brophy in 2018. Her trial lasted about 7 weeks before the jury convicted her of second-degree murder. We will be in the courtroom tomorrow when she learns how much time she'll serve. You can follow live online at KGW.com. Well, it certainly feels like it, but now it's official. Portland is seeing its wettest spring of all time. That's according to the National Weather Service. And all that rain is causing issues on our local waterways. Check this out. This was the scene today at Selwood Riverfront Park on the Willamette. The area is just south of Oaks Amusement Park, and it does flood about once every year. You can see picnic benches almost taken over by floodwaters and the back of a bench basically barely sticking out there. The high water had at least one Portlander thinking about the historic flooding there back in 1996.
The flood of 96, it was up to here. And there you can see evidence of that all these pilings where they had to extend them up 4 feet right at the last minute because the docks were all floating away.
We did catch some people taking advantage of the overflow in Selwood Park. Local dog owners there and their pets splashing around, just playing some fetch. I got to find the silver linings, right? Meanwhile, federal water managers are trying to prevent flooding on the Columbia in Vancouver. Today, they announced they're increasing storage behind the John Day Dam in eastern Oregon. Brian Clerkley has been looking at some of the trouble spots around our region.
In fact, we're not running over on that side of the river today because we heard on the news last night that it is closed. And we've had to skirt some of the area along this side of the river too because of the river being so dang high.
It's a busy weekend for recreation along the Willamette River, with runners bearing the consistent rain and the Rose Festival's popular dragon boat races returning for the first time since 2019. Portland's Parks and Recreation had to close the floating portion of the East Bank Esplanade that's popular for cyclists, runners, and walkers. The rain is not just affecting the Willamette River levels. Over at Johnson Creek in southeast Portland, the National Weather Service sent out a tweet about minor flooding. The creek is expected to reach around 11.5 feet. Officials say evacuations are not necessary until the creek reaches around 14 feet. Back on the swollen Willamette River, Guy Doherty just finished his dragon boat race.
And it was rainy the last 2 weeks, so we got ready for it. The debris is also a killer out there, too, because there's massive logs floating around. It's pushing real quick because the water level's high.
On the Columbia River, water levels are rising as well, which means less clearance room for boats and faster water. This will result in more bridge lifts, which could last up to 20 minutes at a time.
I've lived here for 13 years, and I've never seen this much gloomy weather and rain at this time of year. I'm ready for sunshine and heat.
Oh, me too. And as you saw, the Dragon Boat Racers were back on the Willamette today as part of the Rose Festival. Teams competed for the top prize this afternoon. They've been training for more than a month, and today it was time for all of that hard work to be shown off. Dozens of people filled Waterfront Park yesterday and today to catch all the action. More than 60 different teams from here locally, nationally, and internationally compete in the races. Racers say they're so focused on the race that they don't actually hear the crowds, but that all changes once they're done.
Then it's like party. Then you start hearing all of the crowd and the hoopla and stuff once you've finished the race. So that's the fun part, right? When you know you've caught that flag.
The event has been held on the Willamette River near the Hawthorne Bridge since 1989. The boats are provided through the Portland Kaohsiung Sister City Association. The Rose Festival is still going on, by the way, for 2 more weekends. Next weekend is the Juneteenth celebration with a parade in Northwest Portland and a festival at Lillis Albina Park.